All right. Whoa, that's hot. All right. Welcome. Still very hot. Still very hot. Give me a sound check there.
Cameron Weiss here at Weiss Watch Company.
There you go. That's a good sound check. That's a branded sound check. Welcome to the Erik Anders Lang Show, everybody. We are here. I'd like to describe the space a little bit. We're inside, but we're next to a Volkswagen Bug that's, what color would you call this? Seafoam green?
Yeah. I think it was like Java green or something like that was the official color, but I think it's definitely a little lighter.
We're in your domain. This is your, and Genevieve's here, the 13th month old. If you hear, she's laughing because we're doing a podcast.
Some baby giggles.
She's very excited.
She's very excited about escape wheels and watch parts and all sorts of fun things.
Well, you know, the story of Genevieve and the story of your wife, Whitney, ties very much into the story of Weiss Watch Company, which is that it's not just a family business, but it seems like it's engineered around the idea that this is something you love.
Yeah. If I couldn't bring my family into work, couldn't bring my dogs into work, couldn't have my Beetle parked in the workshop, I don't know how long I'd last. I wouldn't be able to do it for very long.
You call it a Beetle, I call it a Bug. Is there a difference? You seem to be a man who would know these subtle things. Watches are all about subtlety, right? And
yeah.
So you probably see the car as a reflection of that.
A little bit. I mean, Beetle, I guess, was the right, what they called it, I guess. But
yeah.
Bug was the nickname, you know?
I'm a nickname guy, I guess.
Yeah.
I did ask you today on the course whether or not you have a nickname.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's a lot of places that we can start. But first of all, if you're listening to this podcast and you want to get a view of the Beetle or the Bug, check it out on YouTube. We've got a great video here of the entire podcast. And then we have a video of us going out and playing 9 holes of golf, which was very fun. It was your first time playing golf in a few years.
Yeah.
How did it go for you? How did you feel?
It felt great. I mean, I was a little rusty on my swing, but there was a few shots that make me want to start golfing again.
That's a good feeling. Yeah, you hit some great shots.
Feeling.
You hit some very good shots. I guess let's just go background. I heard a little bit today from you on the course about the origins of this entire life now that you lead, which is making watches by hand in Los Angeles with your name on them. Which, by the way, I noticed Weiss is basically, if you look at the letters, is 80% Swiss. Right? There's only one letter missing.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's basically...
Yeah.
I mean, sorry about that, but you know, what you got into this as what? What was the problem you were trying to solve, or the question you were trying to answer?
Honestly, the whole reason that I actually launched a watch company here in the U.S. was I started seeing these other brands pop up. Maybe I guess it was 7 or 8 years ago, and they were all making products in the U.S., making jeans or wallets, or whatever the product was. It struck me as interesting that they were making these things in the U.S., and I had never really thought about how much product was offshored after the 90s. So that made me think, well, the person that's purchasing these products and aligning themselves with these brands and see that story as an inspiration, what kind of watch are they going to wear? And I couldn't necessarily picture those people wearing, you know, a fancy Vacheron Constantine, like that was the brand that I worked for at that time. I couldn't see them wearing a cheap quartz Timex or something like that. There wasn't enough story to that for me. So I thought it might be a good time as an American watchmaker to actually produce watches in the U.S.
Oh my God. So sometimes when we're about to dive into a really good podcast, I have 7 interesting things that I want to ask you about when you say one sentence, which just happened. Oh man. Let's talk about the most interesting thing. You just said the word story. Why is story relevant to a thing on your wrist that ultimately only tells you the time of day?
I think the story is 100% of the importance behind a watch. It's obsolete. It's completely unnecessary. Everybody has a phone, or you're driving in your car and you've got your clock radio. The time is all around us. It has nothing to do with time. It is a piece of art. It is a piece of engineering. It's something that somebody poured their life into, really. You know, they trained, apprenticed, worked, learned the trade, and then spent many hours producing this thing, and it happens to tell time. That's the reason you can justify buying it. But really, the story behind it is where the value comes in. And that's what people are proud of when they put on a nice watch. It's everything that's behind that. You can feel that, all that extra that's in there with the story.
Actually, that made me a little emotional because as a non-watchmaker, I am a watch enthusiast and a small collector. And, it's interesting because for me, the decision to buy a watch was engineered around the story of my life, which was that I would reward myself with something that would remind me of all the time that I put into my business to be able to create an opportunity where I could, in that specific way, reward myself with a watch that I felt I identified with.
Exactly.
You said hours, but I think it's more like decades. When did you get started? You told me the story, and you talked about your mom, and you said the two words that I'm interested by from a colleague of mine who has a YouTube channel called What's Inside.
Yeah.
And your mom asked you with a broken watch when you were how old?
I was a kid, maybe like 5 or 6 years old, and it was my father's watch. He got in a jacuzzi, it steamed up, and it was my great aunt. We were at my great aunt's house, and she said we should open this up and see what's in there. And she was just kind of fostering. I was a very technical kid, and I'd be the one that like VCR broke, and I took it apart. So she brought me a screwdriver, and we took this watch, we opened it up, and looked at what was inside, and that was eye-opening to me. I had no idea. You never really think about that. You just see the hands on a watch, the face of the watch, the dial, the surface things, and it tells time. To actually look inside and see that there was more to it, it definitely had an impact on me. I didn't realize it at that point. We ended up putting a picture of my face inside that watch, and I still have the watch. I still have it. It's one of my most treasured watches, and it does not tell time. It has no movement in it. It's just a picture of me. But the whole story is where the value is. That watch, I would prefer that somebody steal any of my other watches. If they go missing, that's okay. But if that watch goes missing, I would be very sad.
May I see this watch?
Yeah, I have it in the workshop.
Let's go get it. I'll
right.
put a pause on here. Everybody hang on a sec. All right. We are back here. I see a small. It's a similar color to the Beetle here. Well,
yeah.
But before we go into a watch that has a picture of you, I want to just describe to the people who are only listening to this because they are subject to their imagination, which is great. That's why we read books. Cameron, you told me on the course this morning that you grew up in San Diego, you moved to Seattle, and now you're back here in LA. And I feel like the watch world is very full of people that are probably not like you in some ways.
Yeah.
You agree?
I definitely agree.
Without question. Now, just to give him you have a sort of a workman's, not denim, but it's a thick cloth, blue Oxford, long hair, ponytail, nice beard, kind of like mine, short. Looks like you've been working on a boat for 2 weeks.
And it was quite a bit longer yesterday. I had to tame the beard.
But you embody a person who might be making furniture in Asheville, North Carolina, or working on a golf course, perhaps in a remote destination, and so that's important, I think, for people listening to get an idea that we're not on Rodeo Drive. We are in how many square feet are we in? 3,000?
Not even 2,100 square feet here.
2,100, and filled with machines and filled with. Machines of productivity, and this is not a showroom. This is we're on a well-made wood table.
I made this table.
You did not.
I did.
You did not.
I did.
This is why I love people like you. Hang on, I gotta get
this.
a look.
This is the
hood.
table that will save anyone working here from the big earthquake. This one.
Oh, you get under it.
Oh yeah.
What's the footing like? Oh, these are very old.
Solid. Yeah. So these are old lathe machine legs.
They are.
So these old machines like those ones, it's cast iron.
Cast iron.
Yeah.
These things must weigh 500 pounds each.
Oh yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, the legs of this thing are like they actually look like a golf course logo. It looks like an H, like for Sand Hills, kind of.
Yeah, I don't know what manufacturer, what the tool was that was on these lathe or on these legs, but
That's
very
a
solid.
Freudian slip there. Yeah, this is a smooth table. How did you belt sander or no?
This I made here. Sanded and then just like a food safe, like a wax coating basically.
Wax.
Yeah.
Wax is nice and tactile. You don't like it with the enamel's a little bit.
A little bit too thick.
A little too thick.
Yeah.
And then how did you? These are 2.5 by 1s, and they're all sandwiched together. How did you get them to stick so well together?
Clamps.
Clamps.
Yeah.
Any? What do you got?
Clamps and glue.
Scallops? Nothing. Nothing inside.
Big clamps.
There's no bits in between the pieces.
No, just glue.
How long did it take you to make the table?
Um,
Please say something.
It wasn't that long. It
Really?
was like a week.
That's a long time. It's a very long time. In a world where people order toilet paper on Amazon by itself, and then the next day order half and half on Amazon, I unfortunately am guilty of it, and I'm trying to change my ways of that sort of wasteless kind of, energy there for the planet.
Yeah.
You built your own table.
This table is going to outlast me.
Whoa.
By far.
So will your watches.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at your first watch here, which does not tell time. And again, this is a good reason to go to the YouTube channel because we're on a table here that I just found out Cameron made, and there are a lot of other watches here. Some pocket watches. It looks like some. These are
those are rally gauges
for a
so
car.
Those would have gone in a car.
Right.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And then we've got some other wristwatches here and a lot of tools. Anyway, let's look at this. I'm going to put my glasses on. This is great. I'm having a great time.
So it's an old Casio.
Look at that.
And it hasn't been opened since.
I was expecting something very different.
Really?
What was inside of this watch?
It was just a quartz movement. I don't even really remember if it was digital or analog. The insides are long gone, but it was opened up, and that picture, I cut it into a circle and put it in there.
That's great.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Right? If I exactly, who knew I'd end up being a watchmaker? And now this is in an Audemars Piguet box, in a
AP
locked
box.
drawer in my workshop, and meanwhile, everything else is just loose floating around.
What else is in there? Some
This is
papers?
another watch
Oh,
that is very important to me.
gonna put a Royal Oak or something?
No, this is
Oh wow,
my grandfather's watch,
this is an heirloom here.
right?
Oh wow,
With the diamond bezel, the gold
Wow.
case, and it had this gold mesh bracelet. And I needed money to get through watchmaking school. And I was like, okay, let me take the bracelet off of this. And then it's like my grandfather helping to pay for me to get through watchmaking school. So I took the bracelet off. Gold was very valuable at that time. So I was able to get quite a bit of money for just the bracelet. And I have plans on changing the lug so I can put a regular leather strap on here at this point. But honestly, it's nothing I'd ever actually wear, but it's one of my most prized watches, along with this one with my face in it.
So this is a Weil?
Angelus.
Angelus.
Yeah, it's an old company that disappeared. Someone bought the name, and they're restarting it now.
And engraved on the back it says "With Love, D.I.A."
B.
B.I.A.
From Beatrice.
B.
So that's my grandmother.
She got it.
Got it for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
1974.
And I mean, you could see the style of watches was very different back then.
Yeah.
For a man to wear an all gold watch like this
Yeah.
with
diamonds.
diamond bezel.
Yeah, it looks like a woman's watch.
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
nowadays,
it's
definitely.
a very small watch.
The idea that you sold the bracelet really makes me think of, one of my favorite short story writers from Texas, O. Henry.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love those. What's the story I'm thinking of? It's the story where he sells his watch band so that he can buy her a hairpiece, and she sells her hair so that she can buy him a watch, or something like that.
Wow.
It's something. I'm forgetting the details, but it's a
Yeah.
brilliant story. And then they come together, and they're both like,
Yeah. And normally I wouldn't do something like that, but I just thought it was the right thing to do. And then it connects the whole watch thing to me becoming a watchmaker, and also I have his watch. So that was kind of important to me. I don't know.
It's beautiful, and again, it just really drives home the idea that you know, this is, I would imagine a credit to your success. What would you accredit your success to at this point in being 6 years into getting into a business that I would imagine is on the rise, but not necessarily booming? Or what would you say?
It's on the rise, but yeah, not a wildly booming market. We're not like, you know, Fitbits and smart accessories and all that kind of category. But I would attribute the success to passion, because I love what I do, and there's no other way I could do it for as many hours a day that I do it. There was many years where I worked 7 days a week, easily 12 to 15 hours a day, and barely came up to eat, you know? So I just couldn't have done that and loved it if I wasn't so passionate.
Again, just to be clear here, there is no one else in the studio here other than you, your wife, and your daughter, and that's the case every day of the week.
Actually, right now it's just me. My wife works from home at this time, although it looks like Genevieve, she enjoys the watch parts, so we might have to get her in here doing something.
Whitney is also in the family business, and she is in charge of everything but the making of the watches as far as the business is concerned, or?
Pretty much. Marketing, sales, social media, everything, really. If you have asked us any questions online, you've spoken with Whitney.
No one else.
No one else, really. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I focus on product development and watchmaking.
We talked a little bit on the course today about how golf was a big part of your early life, and you played a lot with your father. You said,
yeah,
and then you gave it up for work, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I couldn't find the time to keep up with other passion, like other sports and things, other hobbies. Just kind of like the Beetle hasn't been driven in a year at this point. We'll see. I feel like all these golf and skiing and all these things that I'm getting back on it. I probably got to get the Beetle out. I got to get the surfboard out.
You lead a pretty adventurous life.
I try. I think sitting at a workbench working on watches, it definitely makes me hungry for like outdoor adventures.
Yeah, because we talked earlier about one of your favorite things about the watch is that you can take it with you. It's a thing that is mechanical and has working pieces inside of it, and you can take it with you. And you also talked about something interesting that I hadn't really thought of, that you kind of like when the watch is concealed by the shirt, you said.
Yeah.
That may be misquoting you, but the idea that you felt better just wearing it and having that sensation on your wrist.
Yeah. With a lot of my other watches, I never wear them. I have one watch that I pretty much wear all the time. My other watches, like these two, just knowing that they're there and that I have them makes me feel good. Simple as that. Some of the other watches I might wear, just knowing that they're there. They don't have to be, I'm not trying to display them or anything like that. Just the thought of everything that went into it and all of the history of watchmaking. Hundreds of years of watchmaking. Whereas when you have a lesser, like a quartz watch or something like that, it's more of a technology statement, mostly for fashion, and not so much about what's hidden, and all the art and engineering behind it.
I didn't know you spent some time as an apprentice. You were working with, did you say Audemars Piguet, or was it Vacheron?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That was a mistake.
Yeah, I worked for both of them. I was very lucky. I got a job with Audemars Piguet right out of watchmaking school.
Wait, let's pause there. Watchmaking school.
Yeah.
Is it packed? There's not a lot of kids in there.
There were 6 of us in my class.
Where?
So the school that I went to is in Florida. And from what I've heard, they actually don't run the full school anymore. There's just not enough people, which is kind of sad to see that happen. But it is a dying kind of art form, I guess. But there was 6 of us with 2 master watchmakers for 2 years full time.
Whoa.
So it's kind of a between apprenticeship and school.
And where in Florida?
It's in Miami.
Okay.
Yeah, right in Blue Lagoon, kind of by the airport. You probably see the buildings as you land at Miami. Was it Miami-Dade Airport?
Yeah. And so how old were you when you decided to go to Miami to go to school?
Early 20s.
Okay. So had you already gone to school for something else?
So I went to USC.
Okay.
Which is how I ended up back in Southern California. I went to USC.
You seem to say that as though it would be a surprise to me.
Well, I didn't finish at USC. I went there for a little while, thinking
a little
I
while?
wanted
2 weeks?
a couple of years. I wasted a little bit of time there.
Okay.
But
you decided not to fight on.
yeah, I decided to no longer fight on, and nothing against the school. It was just I started to see my friends that were older graduate, and I was in the business administration program. And when they would graduate, they got these jobs that just sounded horrible to me. And it made me sad to think that was my future. So I
can relate.
Yeah, that it didn't interest me to continue on that path. So I actually started looking for a way to learn manufacturing, because I realized at that point that I needed to make something. I needed to actually make a product or do something with my hands where I could say, I worked all week on this, or I worked all day on this. This is what I have at the end of the day. Something, a table, a chair, a watch, a rebuilt car, something like that.
Was there a moment that you can remember where you saw that for the first time, when you were like, oh, wow, this is a truth about myself, and being here, I am not honoring that truth, and I need to make a rather large change, and essentially not abandon an investment, but definitely change things around to maybe the dismay of others?
Yeah. It was when I was at USC, I was buying old cars and kind of restoring them and reselling them. And with my student loans, they would give me the check for the whole year, and I could cash it, and then I could use that money and slowly pay USC as the bills were due. So I had control of all this extra money, and I was basically just using that to fund this little business on the side of rebuilding cars.
How did you? This is pre-cell phones, I'm imagining. How old are you?
Not pre-cell phone, but it was certainly not like smartphone days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Craigslist. How were you selling the cars?
Oh, Craigslist, eBay.
And what kind of cars are we talking?
Classified ads.
Crown Vics, like old cop cars, or what are we talking about?
Like Chevy Bel Airs.
Okay.
Chevy Blazer. What else? I had a Volkswagen bus. Basically the cars I wanted.
Oh.
I would buy, fix them up, and then drive them for a little while and sell them. And usually I made some money.
Sure.
I'd make a few $1,000s here and there, which was wonderful.
Who taught you how to work on cars?
I taught myself.
Really?
Yeah, I
You bought a Chilton?
I never had anyone in my life that worked on cars that
No,
could
but
help me on that.
You can't just teach yourself without YouTube. How are you going to teach yourself to work on a car?
I didn't do YouTube back then. I would get the manuals.
Okay. You would go buy the Chilton.
Yeah,
you would
I'd
drop
go buy the manual.
$100.
Usually not. I'd find them used. I'd find the guy who already rebuilt his car, and memorize the whole booklet. So I'd get those.
What about the tools? I mean, we're talking 10 G's.
I figured out a way. I don't know how, with very basic tools. The tool is great when you need to do something quick. If you have time, you can slow down and you can either make your own tool, or you can figure out a way to do it without the tool.
I think you just made a meme. You know the mind expansion meme? One is do it without a tool. One is do it with a tool. Or I can't remember. Make your own tool is the third level.
Right?
Wow.
Now that I'm more pressed for time, I find myself buying the tools. But back then, I didn't have the money, but I had the time. So I would figure out other ways.
What's your favorite type of music? I just need to know right now. Like favorite genre of music. Do you have one?
Gosh, I don't know. Probably like alternative rock or something like that.
Okay. That's Seattle.
Yeah.
That's Seattle. I was hoping it was going to be country. Did you ever hear that country song?
I find myself listening to more country lately. I don't know what it is, but country has definitely got its hooks in me.
There's a great song by Andrew Jackson about his first love, and it was a car. But the whole song, you think it's a woman.
Yeah.
And it's just, we'll listen to it later together. It's a great song. It's, I can't sing it. I'm not going to do that. But then you want to sing it when you start talking about a song.
Yeah.
Okay. So you realize that through the cars and through the watching of all these things, you decide to leave USC. What month? Where are you at in the semester? Or do you summer break?
I think I had just finished the second year. I think it was the second year. And I took the summer break and was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going back.
Can't go back.
I can't go back. And so I spent some time trying to figure out what else I could do, you know? And I found this job that seemed perfect for me. It was actually working in a workshop where they manufactured underwater camera equipment.
Interesting.
And I had always been interested in photography and art, and I really wanted to learn manufacturing and CNC and CAD, CAM, all this stuff that I really didn't understand at that point. Plus, the job ad said I would get to learn how to scuba dive, and I could go surfing and use the equipment. So it was just seemed like a dream job. The pay was not very good, but I learned so much. That was not only the place that I started scuba diving, which was wonderful. I still scuba dive now, but I had access to a machine shop all day working on cameras, and then in the evening I could work on watch components and just experimenting. And I had no background in watches at that point. I had some watch tools I had purchased or made and had taken some things apart, but I really didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't gone to school yet.
So overall, the experience of going to school for watchmaking in Florida for 2 years, wild party or pretty much nose to the grindstone?
I mean, it's Miami, so there was a little bit of wild party, but mainly long hours just pushing yourself to try and learn as much as you possibly can. Because you're there and you have access to other watchmakers who have 50 years experience, 60 years experience.
Whoa.
So picking their brain, that's very valuable. So just trying to be there and absorbing as much as possible is the goal.
I can just picture you in your early 20s in Miami. Someone comes up to you and says, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're in school? What for? And you say, watchmaking. What did they say to you?
Most people were so confused by it. They didn't know what it meant. Like, do you make watches or do you repair watches? Or like it's not something, you don't meet watchmakers here. When I went over to Switzerland, I would meet watchmakers pretty regularly. They were everywhere.
Whoa.
But in the U.S., it's so rare to meet a watchmaker.
So when you went to Switzerland, what was that like Mecca? Was that Disney World?
I had never been.
Were you freaking? You land in Geneva, you drive 30 minutes from the airport, and you're like freaking out?
Basically, yeah. With Audemars Piguet, we landed. We drove over the mountains up into Le Brassus, which is where their workshop is. Snowy mountains and tiny little town, and it's basically just watch workshops. There's the cheese shop where all the little cars are coming in with the fresh milk from the cows in the fields, and they're making cheese. And then right next door, they're making Audemars Piguet watches, and that's the whole town. It's just like a storybook, just so picture perfect. A couple little cross-country skiers going through the valley. Unbelievable. And to have at that point already been like, I'm dedicating my life to watches, and having never been to Switzerland to see that I was blown away. Yeah.
That's the slingshot effect. Like
yeah.
you were so ready for it that you just jumped in.
Yeah.
You went there for work the first time, or as a
for work
tourist?
Yeah, for work. I had just been hired by Audemars Piguet and needed to go there for some training.
How do you get hired by Audemars Piguet? How does that happen?
I was lucky. There was
Were you lucky or were you good?
Both. I don't think you can have one without the other.
Really?
Yeah. I think you've got to be lucky and good for things to really happen, you know?
Do you think luck is universally it reserved for the good?
I honestly, I think luck is gonna happen, but if you're good, it's gonna happen to you. You know, when it happens, you can actually strike.
Right.
You're ready. You know.
That's an Oprah quote, I think. Success is opportunity and preparedness.
Right.
At the same time.
Yeah. So at that point, you go through watchmaking school for 2 years, and at the end, you are nothing yet.
You're
it's
literally
kind
just
of like
you're done with watchmaking school. That's
you're
about
done
it.
with watchmaking school, but you cannot get a job yet.
Really?
You have to pass your certified watchmaker's test. Without that extra passing that test, you're not actually a certified watchmaker. Without that, you're not going to get a job in a workshop. You're going to have to do some other kind of administrative type jobs or really basic watchmaking.
Basic watchmaking. That sounds so remedial.
Yeah.
It's just like
like you didn't want to train 2 years to do that, you know. But so basically, you sit for this test, which is 3 days long.
Whoa.
So it's kind of like taking the bar. You know, you go through. You've been through law school, and if you don't pass the bar, you can't actually be a lawyer. You got to go push documents around for a while.
But are people not passing this certified watchmaker's test?
We had one that didn't pass in our class.
Whoa, that's about 15%.
Yeah. And it's tough. It's very tough. You have to make watch parts. You have to service watches. You have to, there's a written portion that has some math, but also theory as far as the mechanics and the engineering and the history of everything. So it's an intense test. It'll make you sweat. It'll make you worry. It'll keep you up. And like I said, if you don't pass it, you then have to wait until the next time you can take that test, which it could be as long as a year.
Whoa.
Lucky for the guy that failed. It wasn't because he was bad. He just wasn't ready at that moment. But there was another school in the U.S. that was doing that test, I think, like 6 months later. So he was able to just work for somebody for a few months, just doing basic work, and then go resit and pass. But it's not something you want to fail.
So you the AP job, how does it come into your life? It's not on Craigslist, I'm assuming.
So that test is graded by we had the person who like the president of the school, the director of the curriculum from Switzerland came over and judged us, as well as watchmakers, one from Patek Philippe and one from Audemars Piguet. So I think whoever was looking at my work from Audemars Piguet must have thought that I was good enough to, warrant a position with Audemars Piguet right away.
Did you see the dude looking at your work?
No.
Okay, so that happens someplace else.
No, it's secret. You go home after the test and you just wait for a phone call.
What?
You just wait days.
Dude, it sounds like an actor in LA waiting for the gig.
Yeah.
So then they call, and does the guy call you and he has a French-Swiss accent?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it's just like a yes or a no.
Whoa.
Simple.
And then he says, do you want a job?
No, so that was different. I passed that, and at that point, I was able to go start visiting workshops that, were interested.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So you went to Switzerland without having a job?
No, they hired me and then sent me to Switzerland.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was all very quick. Within within a couple of weeks.
How long? So where did you live when you worked for AP?
I lived in Miami. They hired me. I went to. So I worked in New York for them.
Okay.
That was where I was based out of.
Doing what?
Watch repair.
Repair.
Yeah, so not actually making watches, which is a funny thing. In Switzerland, the workshops where they make the watches are typically the less qualified watchmakers.
Strange.
The workshops where you repair watches.
Well, that would actually make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean.
So in assembly, you have perfect parts. Everything is good. It's past quality control. You simply have to place it.
Is it
that's it.
Is it like clockwork? All right, I'm sorry.
Very similar.
It's an assembly line that it's obviously very complex, but finding the problem with a watch could be very hard.
Yeah, exactly.
And verifying whether or not the watch was mistreated or something, or
yeah. I like to use an analogy, like if you're thinking about a mechanic that can go into a car and troubleshoot every part of the vehicle, they have to know a lot more than the person who simply bolts the rims on the car at the factory.
Yeah.
All that person has to know is set the torque wrench to this torque, place your nut here, and that's it.
Yeah, you have an overall understanding of the working components as
Yeah.
they coincide together.
Now, when it does change is when you start getting up to the very complex watches where you have one watchmaker that puts the whole watch together. And those would be minute repeaters like we were talking about out on the course, where you have these complications and potentially 1,000 pieces that go into the watch. And you'll have one watchmaker that is making that entire watch start to finish. That's the very top of watchmaking right there. And if that watch needs repair, it'll go back to that same guy.
Bill.
Yep.
It goes back to Bill. Jeez.
That's Bill's baby.
Hope he's not taking maternity leave anytime soon.
A lot of them are getting old, though.
We're going to take a quick break, everybody. Stand by, and we'll be right back with more on. We're not even talking watches. What are we even talking about right here? We're talking about the inside.
Yeah.
This is deep.
Yeah. Very deep.
All right, we are back, everybody. I don't even know where to go. I mean, I'm in like a Rubik's Cube of possible conversational elements here. Should we just go to the watches that you have here on the table?
Yeah.
What's your
let's jump
favorite?
in.
I mean, aside from the ones you've already shown me.
Honestly, so my favorite is this white dial version of the Field Watch.
Again, this is the watch that you designed, you made by hand in this room.
Yeah. It's super simple. Just like I'm a very like I like simple things, simple, classic kind of things. So that's really why that watch ended up like that. Really legible. It looks like a watch where you're like, looks modern, but it also has all these design elements from older watches.
Micah, come on around here and get a shot of the watch from this angle. Again, if you're listening, you got to get a view of this watch. It is stunning. Number one, you said that you like simple things. I would agree that this looks simple, but when I turn it around and I get an opportunity to look at the, is there another term for exhibition back that's a little less pretentious?
Display back.
Display back is more my vibe.
Yeah.
The display back reveals it looks relatively simple, but this is not simple at all. No mechanical watch, would you argue, is actually simple.
Yeah.
In fact, the definition of the scale of watches only increases based on their, literally the word is complications.
Right. Yeah. and it goes from, I mean, what I would consider a simple watch as a watchmaker still starts at around like 120 pieces. You still have 120 parts inside of a basic watch that is mechanical.
And in our 42 millimeter field watch here, how many is there moving parts here?
It's about 150 parts that go into that watch.
150.
Yeah.
It's the size of a silver dollar.
Yeah.
It's a nice size.
Yeah.
A lot of it's cool because it has that kind of vintage look, obviously, which again the strap here is close to the color of the Beetle.
Yeah.
This green is a recurring feature. Do you have a lot
I like
of shirts?
green a lot.
Do you have shirts this color?
I do.
Yeah. I'm surprised the van isn't green.
Right. I wish.
And you have the this beautiful, again, tell me the name of the second, what's it called?
So it's a sub second hand.
Sub second hand.
Yeah.
Which means that it is, why not put a second hand on the main dial?
So it actually makes it more complicated.
To have it on the main dial.
To have it on the main, you have one pinion that runs all the way through the center of the dial.
Hang on. I just need to freak out because I don't learn new words often, but I've never heard the word pinion before.
So the pinion,
no, rack and pinion steering I have.
Yeah,
yes.
there you
Okay,
go. So
go.
the pinion it's basically a small gear, and it has a low tooth count. So
I also have a
gear and
low
pinion
tooth
right
count.
there. Yeah, no? But so there's this one pinion, and it's basically an axle with a gear on one side that goes all the way through from the back side of the watch all the way up to the front, and you put the hands on that pinion.
Is that kind of where the watch starts?
No. That is right in the middle.
In the middle.
Yeah, there's power on one side, there's escapement on the other, and it all kind of runs together to keep it running. That gets more into the whole theory side of everything, because you've got a mainspring, a gear train, and an escapement. The gear train is where that pinion is, right in the middle of the main spring, which I actually have one right here. This is not from this watch, so this is like a little puny mainspring from an automatic watch.
It looks, if you're listening again, I'm going to describe this to you. It looks like a clef, like a musical note. Yeah. That's it's quite light.
Yeah, so that one is from a Breitling actually. That's from a friend's Breitling that I fixed for him.
As a favor?
Yeah, as a favor.
Whoa.
So that's actually a very different than the mainspring that's in this watch. The mainspring that's in this watch is much bigger, heavier duty, more power.
And that's why when you wind this watch, it feels...
Yeah, you'll feel it. You feel winding up that spring is what you're doing.
And this is much looser.
Yeah.
Is this the broken one or the soon-to-be...
That's the old one.
The old one.
Yeah.
And so you had to call Breitling and say, I need this? Or you made it? I feel like
I didn't make it, no. No. Those are a special alloy so that they don't break because they're constantly being wound and unwound and wound and unwound.
A special alloy?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
It's called white alloy, and basically every different company that makes mainsprings has their own mix for it, and they patent their own mix for the alloy. So typically with springs, you're going to go to that manufacturer and order a mainspring from them.
Right.
You're going to tell them there's a few different characteristics that you're going to ask for, like the center, how it connects to the arbor. You're going to tell them how it terminates at the end, like there that has this little part that's kind of hanging off.
Yeah, that's glued on or something?
It's laser welded on there.
Nothing is simple about this.
Yeah, and I think of that as a simple part, but it really is not. It's just a completely different type of manufacturing, and watchmakers typically won't make those springs. However, we can.
Okay, so listen. I'm sure that Whitney doesn't want to hear this all the time, right? Is she just like, all right, enough about the insides. I just want to post a photo of a beautiful watch.
Yeah.
Do you have buddies that like know about this? Do you have like a watch group on Reddit or Facebook that you can be like, yeah, the mainspring and da 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 and white alloy and you know what I mean?
Yeah. There are some guys that I can definitely talk about all the crazy little details with.
Because you probably frequently I mean, there's so many watch words. You probably frequently end up in these situations where you're talking to someone like me who's fascinated by it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you're just going to run circles around them with new words like escapement and pinion and things like that. And it's probably relatively boring for you. I mean, it's not boring. I don't get the sense that you're bored right now at all. I just mean like you want to talk to someone who knows their stuff.
I always look at it as like a challenge, kind of. When I'm talking to somebody about watches, I try and change the way I explain things almost every time just to see. And I kind of like watch people's eyes and see like, do they go dead or do they light up?
Okay, now I want to know.
And then I just kind of change the way I explain the insides of the watch based on whether their eyes lit up. I'm like, oh, that was a good way to say something. And I just try and navigate that way.
You took your SATs?
I did.
What did you get on them?
I did surprisingly well on the math, a near perfect score on math. And I did quite well on English too.
What's the number, dude?
I think it was out of 800 when I did it. And it was like, I think I got a 780 on math and like a 700 on the English written or whatever it was.
Okay, so out of 1,600, you got 1,480.
Yeah.
My remedial math can tell me that. That's impressive. I can already, when you were just, the thing that made me think about it is that the idea that you would choose to explain things to other people in a different fashion. Why? Why would you do that?
I'm like I guess I'm a people pleaser. So I really don't want to see someone like the lights go out when I'm having a conversation with them. So I'd prefer to just change the way I explain it, I guess.
What have you found in the different ways of explaining things?
One thing that always makes people, it just always works, is I just simply show them the watch. I turn it over, and sometimes I'll notice that certain people won't get it. Like they still don't get excited when they see the back of the watch, even though you can see the movement and everything that's happening in there, the escapement going back and forth. And I've realized that all I have to say is there's no battery in there. And I learned that because I showed a watch to someone and they asked, oh, but where do you put the battery? Where does the battery go?
That's a burn, kind of.
And so at that point I realized, like, I could show somebody this, but they still don't get it. They still think that it's a quartz watch and that this is just display. Like, it's not functional until I say there's no battery. And then the eyes lit up. And so I realized that you still have to explain these things. No battery. It's completely powered by springs. You wind it up and it runs and it keeps time, near perfect time. So good that you don't need another timekeeping device. It's not like an old car where it doesn't run that well. You probably should also have a new car, you know? These watches are that reliable. It's unbelievable.
Is there some type of, when you go to a restaurant in California, they get a grade based on how likely you are to get food poisoning there? Is there a similar accreditation for precision in watchmaking?
There is. So it's called a chronometer.
Well,
chronometer grade.
No. You're not talking about the style of watch.
Not the style of watch.
It's literally a whole different thing.
Yeah, whole different thing.
Okay.
You can submit your watch for an outside agency to certify it a chronometer, which is what Rolex does with all their watches.
I see.
So when you see COSC on the dial of your Rolex, it comes with a little certificate, and that watch was actually tested by an outside agency just to prove that they achieved chronometer status. There's some other tests as well.
That actual watch or that model of watch?
That exact watch.
That physical watch that you're holding got COSC.
Yeah. Which means it was made to a very high standard. The one thing a lot of people don't get with COSC is that it is at a moment in time. That watch was very accurate, which means that it was made very well and it was designed very well because it could achieve this near perfect accuracy. But when you got it and it was shipped in a UPS box and it got really hot in the UPS truck and the oils kind of deteriorated a little bit and then you whacked it on a few door frames, it's not still COSC. It was only COSC at that moment when it was being tested. It just means that the watchmaker paid enough attention to get that certificate, but it does not mean that it is permanently COSC.
So how important is that to you when you're making your watches?
To me, it's not important at all.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that particular agency is a Swiss agency. So I don't think that it's a selling point at all for me to send my watches over to Switzerland to have them tested and then get them back here to have a COSC certification.
And thus increasing the price by you probably have to pay per watch.
Yeah.
Probably not cheap.
Yeah. So I still make the things I make to extremely high standards, and timing wise, they're very close to COSC almost all the time. But we're not like sending it out to an outside party to get certification.
How do you test the accuracy of each piece when it's finished here?
So we have a few machines that do that. One of them is on my workbench, and it is
right here. Different workbench.
Right in the clean room workshop.
All right, we're going to go into the clean room in a minute. It sounds like we're going to be in an episode of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
What is in there?
So that particular machine is what I use when I'm actually manipulating the watch. So when I have the case back open and I'm working on it, getting the timing correct.
When you say manipulating the watch, I all of a sudden feel like there's some urgency, some stress there. Like when you open up the watch, is it like the heart is beating and you need to keep this thing alive, or is you could probably make some critical errors when you open up the watch and break it?
Yeah, when a watch is open, it's exposed. It is like open heart surgery. You don't want stuff to be laying open for very long. You don't want projects sitting there for too long.
Too long meaning?
Meaning like if you leave a project for a number of days or weeks even, just having these parts out and exposed could lead to damage.
Briefly, we talked a little bit about the airflow in this building, which is a consideration for you. You called it positive pressure? What did you call it?
Yeah, so positive airflow or positive pressure in our clean room actually pushes air out of that room. So all the time, air is flowing out of that room, which keeps any dust from out here, where we're talking and where guests come in. And also our machine shop is right back here. So any dust that's created out here will never make it into that workshop.
Which is crucial. And because otherwise it would just be going through there and getting into the watch.
Yeah, or if you had a vent in there that was taking up more air than out here, you would actually be sucking this dusty, dirty air from out in the workshop area with the CNC machines and where we're sanding and laser cutting and laser marking. That air would actually be pulled under the door into our clean room, and that would not be a good thing.
So did you have to change the HVAC in here to manage that, or?
No, but we selected that room because of that for the clean room. I could have taken one of these other rooms and taken the wall down in there to make it a little larger or change things around. But that room in particular has the perfect airflow.
You ever see Spaceballs?
Not in a long time.
Remember when he was like, "We're going to move from suck to blow"? Anyway, all right, whatever. Great movie. Okay, so best compliment you've ever received on your craftsmanship with Weiss watches from someone important.
I mean, craftsmanship,
or just overall.
Overall,
nothing in specific. Just the thing that really made you feel like, wow, I've actually done what I set out to do years and years ago.
Recently, I had a client sent me a really nice note. He had just gotten married, and he had been looking at one of our watches for a long time, and he got one for his wedding. Bride gave him a blue dial limited edition watch, and so we got pictures of him wearing the watch on the wedding day, and a super nice note. That was just amazing to get something like that, so personal and wonderful to see that people actually do care about all this that goes on behind the scenes, because we never really know. I focus on all of this behind the scenes, but there's still a lot of people out there that just look at a watch and they see the face of the watch, the dial of the watch. That's all they see, and they don't think about everything else behind it. So to hear how important it is to other people when they write notes to us and send, we have customers that send us Christmas cards of their family. It's wonderful.
Well, they must think of you all the time,
right?
And you
should.
You don't realize There's no way for you to really realize the asunder, right? The way all the stories intertwine.
Yeah.
It's reminding me of. We put out a thing on social media recently that said, favorite par 3, tell me. And, there's a lot of answers, whatever, you could think of them. And the 7th at Pebble was obviously mentioned several times. And someone wrote the 3rd at Pebble. I'm sorry, the 3rd or the 4th? 6th. Maybe it's even the 5th. I don't know. Anyway, they mentioned not the 7th hole at Pebble.
Yeah.
And it's the first par 3 in the course. I'm pretty sure it's the 5th. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5. I don't know. Maybe he said 3. Anyway, it was 5. And I read it at first and I was like, that's a kind of a sleeper hole. It's not that interesting. I don't know if you played Pebble.
I have not.
Okay, well, whatever. It's not the best hole on the property. Yeah. I think most people would agree, including the architect.
Against the grain.
Yeah. And then the tweet went on to say, and the reason why is because that's where my best friend became my wife.
There you go.
And it's to go back and think about, most of us are going to see it as a golf course, and we're going to look at it as a hole with the slope and the grain and the wind and what score we made and, who was in our group and whether it was raining or so many things that are, fine. You can think about whatever you want all time. For every day, you can think about whatever you want. And so it's really interesting that, here, you're talking about stories. I'm sitting here telling a story with you. And right. I'm about to have a flashback because it's really interesting that, you're totally right. In the same way that you're telling me that watches are really only relevant because of the story, I would agree without even knowing it or having really had that thought prior. And perhaps that's the reason why I love golf so much, is because it's an open canvas. You can do whatever you want with it. So I digress. Let's look over here. I walked in and there was one watch that I looked at first, and it was this. I'm going to try to guess at the diameter here. This 36.
No, 38.
38.
Close.
It looked bigger than a 36, but I didn't want to guess 38. This is your limited edition blue dial 38, and this is
No, that's standard issue.
standard issue.
Standard issue 38. The other one you're talking about is right next to it. But that one, so this 38.
Let's do that one first.
This 38 is our standard issue blue dial.
Is this what's the most popular?
Most popular? I mean, right now it's going to be the limited edition.
Right.
But most popular, I think, is this white dial, the one that I wear regularly.
Yeah, the white dial field watch.
Yeah, white dial field watch, 42. I think it's just the perfect size.
The first watch I ever bought was actually very similar to this, Hamilton.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was one of these things that was like I almost wasn't sure if I would even like watches, and so I bought that because it was kind of like, okay, I just don't know.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, and then we went on from there. Anyway, but this one really stuck out to me. This seems just so. I think I also like the leather, but the classicness of it, and I really like the position on this of the sub second hand.
Right.
Very
a little
classic
different, sub
placement.
second at 6 instead of over at 9 on the bigger one.
But this looks a lot like the some of the really classic Swiss watches that with it down low.
Yeah.
Why did you move it over here on the 9 o'clock position for the field watch?
So this one is actually based on a historic movement.
Okay.
So I don't know if these pocket watches over here have it.
Nothing on the left there.
Nothing on the sub dial?
No. Well,
They're
no,
at 6, right?
They're all at 6. Yeah. We're looking at pocket watches here.
The pocket watch over there.
Pocket watches in bell jars, mind you. This is amazing.
So the pocket watch typically had that second hand down at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So what happened was when they first started making wristwatches, they did not move that second hand. They simply turned the movement.
Oh.
So if you take that and you turn it, you see how the crown is up at 12 on that?
Right.
So you're actually just shifting the dial, the numbers on the dial.
I see. Right. Okay, you're just changing
And turning the
wear
movement
10
sideways.
into it.
Exactly. So without actually machining and changing your parts and everything, you could take an already reliable base movement
Right.
and then transfer that to wristwatches, which is what I wanted to do here, is use that kind of historical pocket watch look and design and bring that into a modern watch.
I'm hearing the fridge. Can you unplug the water cooler, please? So, and then this is, it's quite light, this limited edition, the blue dial. This is quite nice.
That's the ultralight.
It is, so it is quite light.
Yeah, that was the whole design, was to take this 42 millimeter, and actually we made the case out of titanium, so grade 5 titanium on the case, which is typically 316 stainless steel, and then on the movement itself, which historically a watch movement will be made of brass,
Okay.
or a German silver, usually like a heavy, soft metal. Those ones are made of a special aluminum.
Which is more brittle?
Which is a little bit more brittle, but this is actually a high-strength aluminum. So this high-strength aluminum you'll see in like airplane wings. And the reason I chose these materials is because if you walk to the end of our street, you can actually see SpaceX. You can see the rocket sticking up at SpaceX. And some of the other machine shops that we work with, when we don't have the capacity to machine a part here, we have other workshops either in the Valley or in Orange County that we can work with, and they'll machine the parts on their machines to our drawing specifications. And they're making parts for Boeing and Lockheed, and they're doing all of these like weird, wings for missiles and all kinds of drones and these amazing parts. And I feel like if we were somewhere else, we might not have access to these amazing machinists that can make watch parts, someone who knows enough about manufacturing that they can make something they've never made before. They could just see it on a drawing and make it. So I wanted to kind of pay respect to the aerospace engineering industry that's here. And it's actually the capital of aerospace for the world is El Segundo, which is right around here.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I would have guessed like Cape Canaveral or something, but I guess that's just the launch pad.
Yeah. So 2 super lightweight materials combined to make that watch.
So light.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, you can feel it immediately when you pick it up. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's like 85 grams, I think, for our stainless steel version with the standard brass movement.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one is, I think it's 50.
Okay, wow.
50 grams.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, when we we did this interview with Ben Clymer on the podcast.
Yeah.
A couple months ago, and he brought up something interesting, which was the idea that perhaps the influencer was engineered by Rolex, and I was kind of thinking about that, and I've been thinking about that in the world of story, in the world of purpose, and I just kind of thought about your world on Instagram, and from what I've seen, and is incredibly just real, and I enjoyed it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, it's not like, here you are living this incredible life, and you're going on all these adventures, and but it's not ever like, it just never felt like you were shoving it down anybody's throat or trying to make it prettier than it was, or really it just felt like this is just the truest diary, entry.
Yeah.
And I had a feeling like you have a theory behind that, or I have a feeling like there's some principle that you're thinking about, and I'm curious to know if that's true, or maybe it's just, hey, whatever.
I think that authenticity is extremely important, and it gets more important every year. Every day, actually, how fast technology is moving and the world is changing, I think authenticity is probably the most important thing. And for me, like, why have an Instagram or any kind of social media presence if it doesn't actually bring myself and the business closer to the person that's interested in watches or my personal life or anything like that. If it doesn't actually bring you closer, then what's the point? So I don't want necessarily to show people all these polished images or try to make them perceive something that isn't reality. So we try and keep all of our social media pretty authentic, I guess would be the right word.
Did that come from? Where did that sort of decision come from? Was it like easy to make that decision, or was it like you learned?
It started at the very beginning when I actually did the social media, and there was no other option but to be authentic. Like I didn't have the time to do special photography or have someone cruising around my apartment taking photos of me working or getting all the right lighting and everything. So it was just me posting stuff that I thought was interesting as a watchmaker. And again, just like with the conversation, I would see what people liked to see, just based on feedback and likes and comments and dialogue, questions, DMs, whatever. And I'd try and give them more of what they wanted, the inside look at watches or whatever it might be that they're interested in. And it morphed from there, but eventually my wife took over and we just kind of retained that same brand language and identity where, we take real pictures in the workshop and we take pictures on our road trip, or like if I'm at a brewery and I take a picture there, or at a friend's workshop where they make something totally different, we'll take pictures of, what they're making, and it feels right for myself and the brand.
You know, it's interesting as you know, one of the things that you might, I don't know if you, well, you have your own podcast, so you probably do know this, but one of the hardest parts about doing a podcast is you have to listen to someone while also think about it's not that brutal quote where it's like, talk to someone who's just listening, not thinking about what they're going to say next. That's not, I hope I don't fall into that category, but you obviously have to listen to have an interesting conversation. But I did think about, while you were just talking, about, you know, my life and how it fits into what you're just saying. And for a second I was like, wait a minute, like, this is my life. Like, I do spend my time with a crew and with a camera, always looking for the best photo. And there are a lot of photos of me playing golf that are real, and I was in the middle of a hole and it was totally authentic. But there are a lot of photos where someone said, go stand over here, I can get a good photo of you playing golf.
Yeah.
And so that is an inauthentic photo if I'm trying to say, hey, every photo is me just playing golf.
A lot of those photos, though, people really like that.
I've been told by the audience that that's what they want.
Yeah.
And so there is that aspect to it that's like, I'm really just purporting a dream. But then, and for a second, I sort of judged myself for a second. And I reflected on our round today and how I said, I just hit another, hang on, wait till the camera's ready. And honestly, while we were there, I could sense that it was inauthentic. Not that it was bad, but it just struck me. And I hadn't had that feeling before. And it's probably because you're a truly authentic individual and I'm vibing off of what you're vibing off of. And you're probably like, this is fucking weird. Maybe, maybe not. I don't care. But the point is, I thought about it. And just now I realized that that's actually all fine because that's my only creation.
Yeah.
You are making things to put on your wrist or you know, a thing to put in the world and a material object.
Exactly.
My material object is merely a photo and a thought, and that's all I get.
Yeah.
And so I know that because of who I am, that there is authenticity there. But in order to create that authentic world, I have to sort of do things that aren't real. And, and I'm realizing that perhaps I'm curious to know what your thoughts were, because I'm sure that people listening don't really know that. They don't really know the nuts and bolts or the springs and gears of what it's actually like to live this life, right? My life. Because someone came in to work with us and they worked with us for a week and then he said, you know, I thought I was going to be playing a lot more golf. And I was like, what? We don't play golf. We get up at 4:30 in the morning and we get to this course and we drone it for an hour and then we go play as many holes as we can. Then we have to go eat and then we have to go do it again. Yeah. And it's sort of, and I'm curious to know, first, I want to know about your experience of playing golf with me this morning and what your truest thoughts were. And then second of all, I'm curious to know if there's any part of watchmaking that becomes a grind.
Oh,
so, but first do the golf thing. What was it like this morning playing golf?
I thought it was quite fun, actually. I think that having like the crew there and trying to document it and have the conversation, you know, that changes it a little bit. It changes the focus. It's not so much competition. And I was used to a much more competitive feeling when I had golfed in the past. Just trying to get the best shot, trying to get the best score, trying to get the best placement, you know, or like people are rushing you. It wasn't a golf that I loved, and that's probably why I kind of slowly fell out of it.
Interesting.
And this was really nice to focus more on like the people and the conversation, and the act of just walking around a course is nice. And you also take a moment to look around and think like, we're on a bluff above the Pacific Ocean at a beautiful golf course. Like, why just look down at your ball and the hole and try and get it there as quickly as possible? Why not take in the whole experience? And I think sometimes having cameras around help, you know, because you start to actually look around and see like, this is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Behind this hole is just blue ocean.
Yeah, I must look at this.
Yeah.
I must focus on something other than the direction of this ball and how many times I hit it this time.
Yeah.
That's
so I think it changes the whole aspect of the game and everything, really.
What part of making the watch just grinds you down? Are you just like, not again?
I love product design. I love prototyping. I love the first of everything. That's really where my passion lies.
The idea stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And finishing up an idea. My wife will say different because I have a lot of projects at home that are unfinished. So she won't think that I like finishing projects.
What are you talking like a patio or something, like a skylight?
Oh, all kinds of things. The list goes on from like home improvements and plumbing and electrical and decks and rebuilding cars and the camper van's still not totally finished. There's so many projects I have taken on that are in like a 95% finished stage.
Amazing.
Yeah, but I really like coming up with new things and prototyping. That to me is very fun, hands-on work, and it's really rewarding. I get the biggest reward when that first one is done and it works and it's just how I want it. Perfect, beautiful. After that, it starts to become a little monotonous for me. And then, of course, I dropped out of business school. I don't love the whole business side. I have to run a business. I have to do accounting. I have to do taxes. I have to do all kinds of things I don't want to do. All of the equipment, we have to deal with banks. We have to deal with leases and landlords. And then, of course, there's a lot of other, public events and things like that. PR and interviews and phone calls. A lot of other things happen besides me just coming in here and getting to sit down and work at my workbench. So I have to be careful to make sure I balance all of that out. Otherwise, I could very easily not make it into the workbench and do a whole bunch of other things I'm not that passionate about. And I don't know how long the business would last if I couldn't actually be at the workbench making watches.
Did you think that would happen? Did you know that by starting your own business that you would run into that, or was that kind of like, oh, like the dream is a little bit different?
Well, yeah, the dream is always that there's plenty of money and you can hire the CPA and you can hire the people to do this, hire the PR person, hire everyone, and but at the end of the day, how are you going to grow the business if you're hiring all of this outside work? So sometimes as the business owner, I'll make sacrifices, and it's like I want this new inspection microscope so that I can make this part better, and that's passion for me. I'm passionate about that. So okay, I'll do the accounting for a little bit longer so that we can buy this tool because that's fun for me. So you kind of take the good with the bad and make it work.
Bootstrapping.
Yep.
All right, I'm ready to change my watch.
All right.
There's two boxes here actually, and when I saw these boxes upon walking in, I didn't know what was inside them. It didn't occur to me that they were holding watches because I've never seen a box with a watch. I've never seen a watch come inside of a box like this.
Yeah.
So let me take a minute and describe this box. This has a gift inside of it for me, I'm assuming. Am I right? Okay. Just making sure I'm not claiming material that's not mine. This is a, don't tell me, oak.
That's right.
Ooh, very pleased.
Yeah.
Evan's very pleased. You're kind of
good work.
Thank you. It's and this, don't tell me, but this is pine.
This is maple.
Maple.
Yeah.
Much better than pine. Good choice. This is a little oak box here. I'm assuming this is made by you. I'm assuming.
No, I don't have the time to.
For a second, I was like, "Don't put him on the spot. Don't put him on the spot."
I keep telling Whitney, my wife, that we need to open a woodworking shop as well and start making the boxes. So I'd like to have a side business that makes wood products as well.
A subsidiary.
Yeah, when I have time.
So this is a beautiful box that slides open, kind of like a big box of matches. Or what's it inspired by?
Honestly, I wanted the watches to lay out flat. That was really the goal. I didn't want to have them like wrapped around a pillow or anything like that. And I wanted to be able to make our packaging in the US. And I like this shape of a box because you could put other things in it. You can take the foam out and get rid of it and put pens in there or little trinkets or things, and it fits in a drawer. But I really just wanted to make like a nice wood box to lay the watch out flat.
let's talk about it's a beautiful box, and let's talk about the logo before we go too much further. Again, if you're listening, I apologize. This is not really going to make much sense to you, but where did you come up with it? I mean, the eye is obviously the hands
Yeah.
of the watch, and the letters are very kind of, I don't even know how to describe these, but it's a beautiful logo.
So picture an airplane from above,
Amazing.
looking down on the wings.
Amazing.
And that's kind of a little nod to aerospace.
It does have that quality.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. I
When
love
we
that.
first started, I worked very closely with a machine shop in the Valley, and I still work with them today. So our relationship's over 6 years now, and they focus on aerospace parts. So not having met them, we would not be the same business we are today. We might not have made it. I was working out of my apartment. I had a watchmaking bench and a polishing machine in a walk-in closet underneath a staircase in an apartment.
Wow.
So we could not machine these parts, and I needed a partner to do the machining. And we found them. They were on board.
You said, hey, I'm going to start a little company and we're going to make watches. And he was like, yeah, okay, let's do this. Yeah, it's a beautiful logo. And the logo looks to me like, I just feel like when this sounds kind of dumb, but when I look at it, I'm like, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like it sort of speaks to like this, it looks kind of like, I'm recognizing something in it that reminds me of a camping logo. Am I crazy?
No, I wanted it to kind of be something that that you might have seen on one of those signs that sticks out from the wall, in a town somewhere back in the 20s, 30s, Just I didn't want it to look like a super modern logo or anything like that. I wanted it to have some kind of timeless aesthetic to it. And then, of course, aerospace and also the hands.
We're about to get a peek here. All right, and then we've got this. That's nice. Oh, and it's you've got a handwritten official identification card here.
Yes,
which is
because
very
I
cool.
do assemble every single watch.
Wow, and it's signed.
Yeah.
So this is the standard issue field watch latte.
Yes.
And this is number 0428. Designed, engineered, and manufactured in Los Angeles, California. Oh, wow. This is 1/11/20. This is
recent.
Merely
A few days ago.
Okay, we're
It's fresh.
pulling the foam out here. This is, wow, that is stunning. Look at that. So this is the field watch here with a sort of cream dial, what we call a latte. I mean, it is a latte.
Yeah.
That's stunning. This the leather is strap.
Yeah. So when I came up with that dial color, I was testing a whole bunch of different dial colors, but I really liked like a creamy looking dial. And I came up with that one, and I had noticed that we had a lot of people that either owned coffee shops or coffee roasting companies that were purchasing our watches or fans of the brand. And I talked to some of them about it, and I guess it made sense to them because if you think about the amount of energy that they put into a bean that is then turned into this like brown water that people drink every day.
That doesn't really taste good when you first try it.
Right? It's like you have to learn to love it, but they have dedicated so much of their life to making the best coffee and making it not bitter and just wonderful coffee. And it's a slow process as well, not only growing the coffee, but then actually getting the coffee here and roasting it the right way and then making it the right way. There's so many steps where you could just destroy it and make it taste like crap.
Very easily.
So that's why I decided that the name for it had to be latte.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then we have another example here. This is same box. I do love this box. This has a great texture to it. Okay. I'm having a hard time not peeking. This is unboxing therapy. Ooh, and this one is olive. It's not. Is it a NATO strap or is it?
Not NATO. So NATO means that it's a one-piece strap. So
right.
this over here, like on the.
We'll get into the sub in a second.
On that watch over there, that's a
that.
NATO strap.
And this is a black dial field watch. That's really beautiful.
That's actually the watch we started with. We sold one watch at the beginning.
It's
Green
very
canvas
classic.
strap, black dial, white numerals. First watch, we sold that for, I think it was 6 months before we introduced a white. And it was like groundbreaking to have a second color.
But all you're doing is really changing the dial. I mean, and not mechanically.
Yeah, mechanically the same, but just a different dial. But doing things slowly like that as a small company, one person, adding a new color means manufacturing twice as many dials at once. And it's not cheap to make things in the U.S., you know, and then to stock them. And then, I could make 5 black dials and the next 5 orders that come in are white dials.
Ooh.
So then you also kind of have to have more case parts and more movement parts. And so you have to increase your inventory of everything.
Right.
So that you can support the fact that your customers could choose different things. You know?
And have them in stock because there's nothing more annoying than finding what you want and then seeing that it's not in stock.
Yeah.
What a beautiful selection of watches you have here. How many different watches do you make right now?
Wow, I don't even remember how many we make right now.
It's more than 5.
It is. There is a green dial of this one.
Okay.
Which, I mean, you can see I love green. So there's a dark green version of this one here. And then there's also black, white, and latte of this one.
Beautiful. All right, so I do need to talk about this last watch over here. It's not a Weiss. It was interesting to me that we sort of came up with this discussion on the golf course because I was telling you that I don't particularly like this. I like the brand kind of, but I don't really like the model because of its prevalence in golf. It's the Rolex Submariner here. Most of the time, I'm not seeing it in the James Bond era of the 60s with the NATO strap. I'm seeing it brand spanking new, oyster bracelet. You then doubled down and told me that not only is this a different era, you went in and not only fixed it, but built some parts for it yourself.
Yeah, it needed a lot of work.
That's insane to me. Would that affect a resale value of a watch if you went in and just kind of made it yourself?
Depends. If you're somebody of note, then there's actually
it would help.
Yeah,
so it would make it more valuable.
It would make it more valuable potentially.
Whoa, are you one of these guys?
I don't think I'm there yet.
I think you're close. You're just really humble.
So there's actually a very famous watchmaker. 2 other watchmakers basically. He's like. What
do you mean 2 other?
We would get butterflies in our stomach if we saw this guy.
I see.
And he's passed away now, but he was living not too many years ago. George Daniels, and he came up with this thing called a coaxial escapement, and it was a totally new coaxial design of the escapement that you see in all of my watches, and coaxial meaning multi-layers, and it was all these things that were very advanced in engineering and manufacturing. And he actually took a Rolex watch, and he altered the movement and put his own escapement into it. And then he brought it to Rolex, and he said, "Would you like to buy my escapement to put into your watches?" And Rolex said, "Nah, we're not interested."
This is what year?
Wow, I don't know what year. Probably
years and years ago.
Probably the 70s.
Okay.
But I don't know for sure.
That, but it's approximate,
So he brings that watch to Rolex. He takes a Patek, and he puts the escapement in a Patek. He does the same thing with an Omega. He does it with a bunch of brands. He puts this escapement in there.
One sec. It's definitely pronounced Patek, huh? In Swiss?
Oh, I don't know. There are people that say Patek or Patek. I just have always said Patek.
Oh, okay. But in Switzerland, what do they call it? They must have a totally different pronunciation.
I think Patek. I think they say Patek over there.
Hey, you know what? I like that you call it Patek, and I might switch it up.
Yeah.
I like it.
And really,
Hey, we're in America. We're not in Los Angeles.
yeah.
We're in Los Angeles, baby.
Exactly. We have Hermosa Beach over here, and one of my friends in college used to say Hermosa Beach,
No.
and I never knew what she was talking about.
No.
I didn't know where she was going.
No
I
one's
don't know Hermosa Beach.
No
I
one's
don't
going
know.
to Hermosa Beach.
Yeah. So even if it's correct, you don't always understand it.
So, okay. Anyway, Patek, and they say no as well?
Yeah, basically everyone was not on board with it. Omega, eventually, he wore them down, and they purchased his escapement.
The coaxial
The
escapement.
coaxial escapement. And now if you go into an Omega boutique, you'll see almost all of their watches have a coaxial escapement, and it says coaxial on the bottom of the dial.
Wow.
Yeah. But amazing watchmaker. He literally wrote the book on watchmaking. There's a book called Watchmaking by George Daniels. And I saw you were in Isle of Man recently, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so his workshop is in Isle of Man.
No way.
He had one apprentice. His name is Roger Smith, and he still works on Isle of Man.
Oh, was he involved with Richard Mille?
I don't.
Oh no,
think
Roger
so.
Smith. I remember hearing that
Roger-
name while we were there.
Yeah, so Roger Smith he's like the only watchmaker that is doing anything like this. I think he makes like 10 watches a year, but he makes everything. When
And
you
they're
say
$1 million each or something.
like mainspring, he's making mainsprings.
Yes, I remember this story. We were hearing this while we were there, and yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So for people who are fascinated by what you're doing and they want to get involved, how important is it for you to have someone try on a watch before, purchasing?
I
And
mean,
is that possible? I mean, I know that you do wonderful customer service within the shop and online. Is there a place for people to try it on?
we have some retailers. You can find them on our website, weisswatchcompany.com.
Oh, you have a little, like literally go here.
Yeah.
What cities?
Let's see. Well, I mean, we have plenty through California. We have in Oregon and Portland. We have Texas in, Houston, Dallas, and Austin. Where else? I think New York, Boston. There's a
Okay.
bunch. We have a good number
going.
of retailers in the U.S., a couple in Canada, Japan, and Germany, I think. Yeah.
So that's a great way, because honestly, what's great for me is I've obviously seen these watches a bunch in photos and some videos, but my first time seeing them in person. And it's interesting how, they take on a different meaning, especially with the limited edition, the weight.
Yeah.
Right? That's very interesting to me. There's a waiting list for most of these watches if they're going to get them through you, as I understand.
Yeah.
But it's a really great story, man. And I'm really excited to have been here with you and seen kind of, well, first of all, we haven't even seen how they get made. That's next. Now we're about to dig in. Again, if you're still listening, that's amazing. Number two, get ready, and you got to go on YouTube to see the inside of the watch, which is what we're going to do right now.
Yeah.
Is there any questions for me?
For you? What watches interest you out there in the marketplace right now? Is there a watch where you're like, wow, I'd really like to have that watch or see that watch?
Well, for me, a GMT was very attractive, right, originally, and it's because I can immediately tell what time it is for my best friend who's in Australia right now, and I can get a baseline of England. I always know what time it is in England, and that was really nice for me. And it's originally a pilot's watch, which spoke to me a lot as a traveler, and easily clicking the hour hand without needing to adjust the minute hand was very nice. So that was my first kind of decision, right, as far as what real investment am I going to make in watches. Yeah. And I was saying as I walked into the studio here, the 38 mil with the the sub-second hand, what do you quickly say?
We just say at 6.
At 6.
Yeah, sub-seconds at 6.
As opposed to at 9.
Yeah.
Struck me because a month or two ago, I was in a reseller, Arthur, it was in Manhattan, 57th. I'm blanking on the name, but it's well known. And they had a Patek. a Calatrava Officier that I was like, whoa. And I'm not really. Would you consider this watch a dress watch?
No, I wouldn't consider any of our watches a dress watch in particular.
But
I
are they
would
sport
say
watches?
that they're more of an all-around watch.
Okay.
Where this one is a thinner watch.
Yes.
That like if you're the kind of guy that wears, a dress shirt or even just a suit all the time, you're probably going to like something that's thinner because it's not going to get caught on your cuff all the time. But this one with a leather strap is like the perfect watch if you're, dressing up a little bit.
Never thought of the functional implications of that. Never thought of that.
I mean, a lot of the automatic watches out nowadays, they're so thick. It's such a thick watch, and it's easy if you're jeans and a t-shirt to wear those watches all the time.
Right.
But if you're putting on a dress shirt, it can get annoying pretty quick.
Yeah, it kind of gets caught in the cuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, this one, tell me the name of this one again.
That's the 38 millimeter standard issue.
38 millimeter standard issue. Looks very similar to that Patek. And that struck me immediately. And also the blue dial is something I don't see that often, especially in newer watches. I feel like maybe I'm totally wrong.
Yeah.
But
They've all kind of standardized and put the second hand in the center.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one immediately I was like, oh, wow, this is, like I said, I mean, that Patek, I was like, oh, okay, in a couple of years because it's not cheap.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I was kind of thinking about that and I was like, man, that's a lot for something on your wrist that ultimately is not new and it is fragile. And what's really important to me is kind of where I started going with it. And I sort of started moving away from the idea of buying a watch that's that extravagant at some point in my life, even if I was totally able to, afford it. Some of the people that I respect the most are people that are totally able to buy whatever on earth they could possibly desire and just merely stick with the things that make sense. And their sensibility there is, I kind of like. So anyway.
Yeah. I prefer simple.
Yeah.
You can see it in the watches I collect, the cars I have.
This is a simple car to work on.
Yeah.
Great plates too, from 1956.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
In California, you're allowed to get old plates,
right,
and put them on vintage cars.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But they have to be period correct plates.
Okay.
So this is a 1959 Beetle.
Jeez.
So the plates that would have been issued originally are the 56 stamp. They made these yellow plates starting in 1956. They made them through like 1963, I think.
Okay.
So you can kind of gauge a car's era by those yellow plates. I like the yellow plates more than I like the black plates because the black plates have been reissued.
Ah, yes, you can get them on your Tesla now.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I have a truck at home that has yellow plates as well. I like the yellow plates.
Very particular.
So, yeah. People are like, I haven't seen yellow plates before.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see what's inside this watch. So thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And please check out Cameron's work, Cameron and Whitney's work.
Yeah.
And, all the information is below. And if you're near one of his retailers, yeah. I don't know the wording.
Resellers, well, it's all the same.
Whatever. People, if you're near a building that has his watch in it, stop by.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Thank you.